You've seen it, obviously.
Good evening. Welcome. Happy to see some new faces here. For those who don't know me, but I think pretty much everybody knows me, I'm Sheila Ludwig, and I'm the proud mother and happy to present our speakers today. I don't know who's prouder of Isabella, my husband John or myself, but all I can say is that if you had a chance to get to know me in this last year, you know that I'm theming with pride and so grateful for the Nepean-Kanata Club to give Isabella this fantastic year abroad. Isabella is our first child. I believe she's a superstar. I'm biased. She came home one day with this idea. I was a little bit worried about the idea. I never heard of anybody going away for a year on a trip like this, and I said, just Google it. And she Googled it, and she came up with Sue Kohler's name, and basically the last 2 years are history, because I belong to the club now, and Isabella has been eternally introduced to all things Rotary, now to the rest of her days. And so this has been a wonderful beginning for her. So without any further waiting, I'm going to introduce Isabella Bossom.
Want that up? No.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Okay.
Thanks. So,
You don't have to get that.
Okay. Thank you, Mom, for that introduction, and good evening, Rotarians. Before I start my presentation, I just wanted to explain why I'm wearing this. So this is the Rotary Youth Exchange blazer, and for Canada, it's red, although everywhere else in the world it seems to be dark colors like black or blue, so it's kind of a source of pride that I got to wear this on my year-long exchange. And I'd like to point out that every pin or little trinket I have on here was from an exchange student that I met from another country. So I don't know if anyone can see, but I have like Germany, Brazil, Paraguay, Taiwan, USA, Australia, many, many countries. So this is one of my favorite things I got to wear for the exchange.
Yes,
Although it's noisy, so that's why I'm going to take it off actually. Also, as exchange students, we got business cards at the beginning of our exchange, so if anyone would like some, I'll pass them around now or later. Later, okay, good. So, thank you. It was hard to bring in the airport, by the way. Okay, so like I had mentioned before, I am the exchange student, 2014-2015, who went to Germany for a year. And as you can see here, I have my wonderful German flag signed by all of my exchange student friends from many different countries, actually. Yes. So I have a small overview of my presentation. I'll be starting by explaining a bit about before exchange, who I am, kind of my interests a little bit, if you will. And then I'll be speaking about my exchange, what kind of experience I had, my host families, my city, some basic things like that. And then I'll be speaking about what I'm doing now after exchange, how it's affected me, and just things like that. And that photo, by the way, is one of my favorites. It was taken my first week in Germany at the highest point in my province, if you will. So yeah, I'd like to show that one off.
Nice.
Thank you. So before exchange, who I am. So, Dad, don't laugh. So I heard about
this organization and the prospect of going on a year-long exchange from our very own past exchange student, Claire Blaisdell, at Camp Otterdale. Every year for the past 5 years, what I've been doing is going to a summer camp for 2 weeks, and this was the longest time I'd ever been away from my parents. It's kind of ironic thinking back. But I met Claire there, and she told me about Rotary, a wonderful organization that hosts this youth exchange. And she told me that she would be going in 1 week to Denmark for her year. And she was so excited and enthused by this idea and the support from Rotary that she shared that with me and the other girls there. And so when the 2 weeks were up, I said, I love you, I like to see you, Mom and Dad. And then the first thing I said was, but I have this idea. And that idea was to go on a year-long exchange. And so I looked up Rotary, and this is how it came about, basically. Some other facts about myself: I'm 17 years old. I like to act. This photo was taken in a movie where I was with my dad. I like to play instruments. I had my grade 7 piano examination. And I like to read, and I'm very into school. So, some more things about before exchange. So to be an exchange student, you have to go through a set of many interviews and things like that, but also 3 major orientations where like the rules are discussed, some basic things like this, and the goals of an exchange. And at one of the orientations, we were 14 exchange students, we got to choose our countries. So we got to have little meetups with all the other exchange students in the district, so people like Nina and Pia who came here, and they told us about their countries. And it was my idea to learn a new language. I wanted something new. And so I decided that my first country would be Germany. And I had a few others, Italy, France, but I really wanted something different, you know? And I was fortunate enough to get my first choice. So that was a really big moment for me. So this photo there was taken a few months before our exchange with my blazer, and as you can see, it's a little bit more full now. Yeah, so that was before exchange, how we prepared. And let's jump right into my exchange. So my city was Frankfurt, Germany, and I'm sure most of you have heard of it, maybe even a few of you have gone to it. It's somewhat similar to Ottawa. It has a population of around 800,000 towards 1 million, and it's actually also on a river called the Main River. So it's similar to Ottawa in this way. And also, fun fact, it is the only city in Germany with a skyline. So most people think city has to have a big skyline, but in fact Berlin does not have this, Munich does not have this, Dortmund, Dusseldorf, none of them have this. So that was something that was interesting about Frankfurt. Also, some other facts about Frankfurt. It has the international airport, so if any of you have ever gone to any other countries in Europe, you might have stopped in the Frankfurt airport, and that's probably all you would have seen. Some other facts is it's the center for the European Bank. So a lot of people there are in business and finance, and they run this here. And that's why they have the giant euro symbol, because they are the center for this. They also have the highest GPA in all of Europe. What else? Also, Frankfurt was heavily bombed during the Second World War, so they had to do a lot of reconstruction, but they still wanted to keep the historical German past, so what they did was they actually rebuilt an entire area to appear like the old style of German houses. So that would be this area here, which is like the old center, and right next to it is actually a church from the year 1100 called the Römer. So what's interesting here is the contrast between the skylines and between this old style of building. So I find that really unique, especially coming from Canada where everything is relatively new, comparing it to Europe, basically. So, but I wasn't actually living in the city. I was living in a suburb that you could compare somewhat to Kanata. It had around 45,000 people. And yeah, this was a really nice area. It was called Oberursel, and yeah, around 20 minutes outside of Frankfurt. So Oberursel had a really historic past, almost more so than Frankfurt. This is the old center, and these were actually not reconstructed, just a little bit painted over, if you will. And this center was also from year 1100 when the Romans settled in this area. So I really enjoyed to see the history because I'm really into that subject. Also, there's a lot of new buildings, so this contrast again was shown. But I just really liked this community feel because it's even bigger than where I'm from in Dunrobin, where there's only 1,000 people, so I enjoyed this a lot. Another amazing thing about Oberursel was they had transportation. So that was a new thing for me. They had a bus line, everything was close so you could walk or bike, and also they had 2 trains. So they had a fast train that could get you into Frankfurt to any other city in Germany within a few hours. And they also had a localized train that I would take every day to get to school, to Rotary events, anything basically. And this really changed my life and also brought upon some independence, and I felt a little more confident that I could do things on my own. So that was really nice. Oh, okay, now I have a little game of true or false for all of you. See if you know anything about Germany or Germans. Yeah. So the first question. Germans love to eat sausages. If you think this is true, just put up your hand. Okay, looks like most of the room. And this is true. So there's over 1,500 varieties of sausage actually. Like different kinds from like bratwurst, the common one. There's blood sausage, there's a whole bunch of different kinds. My favorite's actually liver pate. Sounds questionable, but it was the best. Yeah. Next question. Germans love comedies, so books, movies, plays, and such. True or false?
False.
No.
False. So put up your hand for true.
No.
Down for false. Okay, so false. Yeah, that is correct. They're actually obsessed with crime shows and mysteries. I never would have guessed that before, but maybe it's the serious nature. So I found this kind of interesting. I never would have guessed that. And lastly, are Germans the largest per capita consumers of beer in the world? True?
Sure.
Hands up.
Two hands.
Actually, this is false.
Oh.
So, upon some statistic analysis, Germany is actually number 3. So the top country is Czech Republic and then Austria. Although Germany, they've been brewing beer for hundreds of years, so people would have thought first, but not anymore. And then I have a few more facts about some things that I learned in Germany. Yeah, so I learned that there is not only one standardized German. No, there are 250 different dialects depending on the region you live in. So, for example, a person in Berlin, they speak a very harsh, strong German. I'm going to give an example. If I was introducing myself, I'd say, Ich bin Isabella. So very strong. Whereas where I was living is the neutral German, the High German, and I would say, Ich bin Isabella. Whereas in Munich, I would speak very soft, Ich bin Isabella. So it changes from where you go. So whenever I traveled to a new region, they could tell where I was living in because of how I spoke. So that was kind of unusual. Next, I did not know that Germans are sports lovers. They are in love with soccer just as we are in love with hockey. So I actually got to go to a soccer game, which was really cool for me. And I'm not gonna lie, kind of like it more than hockey, but yeah, I just don't say that around people. Another thing I learned is that Oktoberfest is actually in September, and this is because of the time of year that they actually brew the beer. It's earlier, and they only finish in October, even though it has this classic name that everyone's heard, Oktoberfest. Something else. Germans have difficulties writing their own language. So in my school, I was in the 10th grade, and a lot of students actually could not write with proper grammar. It would be the equivalent of maybe a grade 3 student here in Canada. So it was very difficult for them because of their complicated grammar rules. So that was something that was kind of difficult for me as an exchange student, and also very difficult for the immigrants living there. Oh yeah, I have a book. This is a book with all the basic grammar rules that you have to know in order to speak very low-level German. So it is quite extensive. There's actually, if any of you speak French, there's more exceptions than in the French language, and there are a lot in the French language. So it was very challenging to begin speaking this. Something else about food. Germans rarely eat chicken and vegetables, so that's a staple in our Canadian food. But in Germany, instead, they kind of overcompensate or balance this with bread products and also with turkey. So that's their poultry, which is a little unusual. And also, they always dress very formal and in muted colors. So usually, you would never see Germans in sports clothes or sweatpants. They would never wear that. Always skirts, always professional pants, professional clothing, and never in bright colors. So I see you're wearing red, orange. They would never wear this. Just something about them. They're also.
Sweet.
Okay. Also, there are a lot of holidays. So I noticed they had about 4 weeks more of holidays than we have here in Canada. And they would use this time to travel and see other areas in Europe because they live so near to everything. Yeah, I know. So I thought that was a bit unfair, but it was nice at the time.
There's one more you missed, not as organized.
Oh yeah, sorry. And Germans are also not as organized as we stereotypically think they are. So there's this idea that they're always on time, they have everything prepared, everything runs smoothly in Germany. In fact, this isn't 100% correct. A lot of the time they did a lot of things last minute and didn't really know what they were going to do. Maybe this is because they have that opportunity to travel last minute. Everything is so easy and so close. Whereas here in Canada, we have to drive long distances to go places and plan. Perhaps that would be an explanation. So during exchange, so my first host family. So this is a photo of my first host family I stayed with from August all the way until the end of December. This is my host mother, who is actually Austrian, named Andrea, my host father, Oliver, and this is a photo of my 2 grandparents that I saw during Christmas time. I actually had a host brother and host sister as well, but unfortunately, even throughout the entire year, I had no host siblings because these 2 were in school and one of them was doing a year abroad in Argentina. So how they do exchange in Germany is if you send a student out, you must host 3 times, so for the equivalence of an entire year. So I was actually the 4th exchange student to be living in this home. But I was still welcomed really nicely. So this was the house I was living in. And what was really sweet was when I first arrived to the house, they had these little posters everywhere of a photo of myself and of their family. And basically what it says is, "Dear Isabella, welcome to the Dud home." So that was their family. And this was already, I don't know, a sweet gesture I found that they did for me. We also, the number one thing we did together was travel. So because my host mom's from Austria, we often went there to see her parents. And we did this during October and also for Christmas. So in the first photo, that's me in Munich. And this one, I'm in another city in Germany called Marburg. And this one, I was actually hiking in Austria for 5 hours on the mountains. So it's also a very sporty family. They like to do things outdoors. But I really appreciated how they helped me learn German really quickly. I hardly ever spoke English to them. I still don't speak English with them. So I really appreciated that effort that they put in for me. So as I said, for Christmas, I was in Austria. I stayed in Selmsee and also Salzburg, Austria. Unfortunately, there was no snow. It was a warm winter. But I got to go to these Christmas markets, which were really unique with these wooden buildings, and they would sell all kinds of little trinkets and sweet things. And even now, as the Christmas season rolls around, or holiday seasons, I kind of miss it in a way. It was a different sense of community almost. So that was really, really nice. And now I'd like to speak a bit about my second host family. So for the last So from January until July, I stayed at another host family called the Kastners. And here, like I explained earlier, I had no host siblings either, so it was just myself with my host parents. So this was Connie, my host mom, and Jürgen, my host dad. And my host brother was on an exchange in Argentina as well. And my other host brother was in university, so it was just me, but it was okay. And this is the house I lived in. So the house is actually 4 stories tall, so I couldn't get a good photo. So we got the garden, and then a little bit of the interior. But I got to do a lot of things with the Kastners, so it was a really good place to be. I was very happy in their family. Yeah, so like I was saying, we did a lot. Every Sunday in Germany, because of religious holidays and such, everything is closed. So what we did was we had this little tradition of learning something every Sunday. So I would go to different museums and see different areas in the local communities and in the city. So for example, in this photo, I was at a film museum in Frankfurt. I went to art galleries, I went to different exhibitions, I went to nature museums. I got to see a lot and learn different aspects of the German culture, and specifically the Frankfurter culture. Also, I got to play a lot of sports. My host dad was the president of a golf club for all of Western Germany, well, the western area of Germany. And so he taught me how to play golf, which was really sweet. And also, my host mom and I would go to Zumba classes, so dancing every Thursday. So this is a really good bonding opportunity, I felt, and we felt like we were doing something together, so I really enjoyed that. Also, I got to meet my host father's family in Stuttgart, like in this photo here. So distant family. I got to go to his mother's 90th birthday, and I also got to go to his niece's confirmation. So this was really nice, and it was a really personal event, and I felt almost as if I was a part of their family. So I really enjoyed being with them. So learning the language. So German is a very difficult language. Let's start with that. But what was good was the district there. Within the first few days, I went to a 2-week language camp with all the other exchange students in the area, so in Hessen. And here we just began to get a grasp on the language and try and catch up with everyone. I only knew 3 words when I went to Germany: Danke, bitte, hallo. So it was a little bit challenging in the beginning, but at least in the first 2 weeks I got to progress myself a little bit. But I was very fortunate in being able to attend a 4-week intensive German class with other exchange students, so the ones in this photo. And because all of us live nearby, the Rotary clubs actually paid for this 4-week intensive course rather than going straight into school, and it helped me progress immensely. So within the first 2 weeks of this particular course, I was speaking fluent German. No English, nothing. So that was what I felt to be a pretty big accomplishment, seeing as I'd only been there for a short amount of time. And then after these 4 weeks, I started attending regular school, but not only was I attending school, I was also attending extra German classes. So bi-weekly, I would go to another German class to expand my vocabulary and push myself a little more to just get better, obviously. And I had to put in a lot of homework and commitment to do this. It was really, really hard. Honestly, if you couldn't speak the language there, you couldn't really make friends. So that was my goal, was to communicate with as many people as possible. So I pushed myself a lot. And in Germany, they expect you to achieve a certain level. Otherwise, they claim they will send you home. So they said they wanted everyone to achieve this B1 certificate level, which is internationally recognized. But because I'm very ambitious, I decided to push myself further and study on my own for the B2, which with this examination you can study in any German university. So I decided I was going to try for this, and I worked extremely hard, and it was very difficult, but I passed the B2 exam. So I can say this with confidence that this was my biggest accomplishment throughout the year. So the district orientations. We did a lot of things together, as this district does as well, but ours were mainly focused on culture and learning. So I had to give a lot of presentations. Within the first 2 months, 15-minute presentation, all in German, with the other exchange student from Canada. And we presented about our homeland and how everything is here. And we were basically ambassadors for how things are back home. Also, I was in the district conference with this group of people, and we got to perform. We put on German skits, we got to sing in German, and give little speeches. So this was really nice to be so involved. But also, with the other exchange students, we had some fun. This is a photo taken at Carnival, which is the equivalent of Halloween here. And it was just really nice to see these people out of the, I guess, orientation setting. So it was good to spend time with them and get to know these people, really. And also, I had an added responsibility come January, because how it works in Europe and some other countries is exchange students come in 2 groups, in August and in January. So I was an August exchange student, so when the second group came in January, I was considered old. So I was an oldie, and these people were newbies. So I had to be the role model, help them teach German, help them make friends. So this was an added responsibility, and it was really good because you could meet an extra batch of exchange students. So I thought this was a bonus. So the Rotary Club. I was hosted by the Rotary Club of Oberursel, as well as one other student. And believe it or not, it is a smaller club than this one. There was actually only 12 members, so it was quite small. But it was not that old of a club. It had only been around for 7 years. And of those 7 years, 5 of which had been spent focusing on youth exchanges. Many Germans like to go out on exchanges, so for every student they sent out, they had to host some as well. So I think that year, 2 of them had been sent out, 2 of them had to be received. So that's how it worked. And they really focused on local charity initiatives, so everything in the local Frankfurt community rather than nationally throughout Germany. And they had a specific focus on the Children's Hospital. How they fundraised this was kind of different, I would think. They had a lot of festivals in our cities, so what they would do is they'd set up little tents and kiosks, and they'd serve food or champagne and something. So I would help out with this. I would be doing the dishes, but I was still helping out, and I thought this was a good way of giving back. But compared to this club, they didn't really have much fundraising, so that was kind of different for me to see. Most of their money actually came from their own pockets or was donated by other sources, so it was a different way of running things. And this photo here is of my counselor, so she was the one who would invite me to specific meetings because I was not always invited, so it was a bit different. So, my school. This was another extremely difficult challenge during my year. So, the school system in Germany is a streaming system. I don't know if Nina may have spoken of this or not, but at the age of 10 to 12 years old, all the students are, well, the teachers decide in which stream the students will go into. So the academic, like university college stream, or if they're going to the trades, or if they're going straight to the workplace. So the high school I was placed in was in the university high school, so the university prep, which is called a gymnasium. So from that alone, it was very challenging. And I was put into a grade 10 class because I thought it would be a little bit easier for me. I also had to take 13 compulsory classes, 12 of which were in German, and these days could vary in length. So some days I was getting out at 1 p.m., some days at 6 p.m. It all depended on the schedule. And the advanced class I was lucky enough to take was advanced music, which was good because I already had this base of piano and guitar and flute, and I could kind of grow from that and learn with that. So it was okay, but it was very hard to make friends in this school because they were all very stressed and worried about graduation and getting into universities, even at the age of 15, 16 years old. So this was quite different, but for sure my biggest challenge. Nevertheless, I did make friends. Most of my friends were from my music class, and we went to many operas actually with the class, so that was really nice for learning. I also made some friends in the school, but most of which had been exchange students. with Rotary, with other organizations, so they kind of had empathy for me and were sympathetic because it was really hard to make friends. The Germans really would not speak with me, even if I tried and tried and tried. So it was good that I did have this community of people, but it was really difficult. And then this was my best friend, Johanna. Hopefully I can visit her someday. So travel and culture. I was very fortunate that the district organized a lot of tours for us to travel, learn about culture, history. I've said it a few times now, but it was really, really well done. So first of all, we had a small weekend in Marburg, a local city, and then we had this massive Europe tour. We had a Berlin tour, an Eastern Germany Tuningen tour, and just a fun sports weekend. And this was a photo of everyone on the Europe tour. So the Europe tour consisted of visiting 18 cities, and we traveled over 5,500 kilometers in one bus, 64 exchange students, and this was over the course of 21 days. So this was a very intense tour, but we really got to see a lot and experience the different cultures in the different cities, which was very cool. I got to practice my French again, I got to practice my German, and I got to learn a bit of Czech in the Czech Republic, so that was really nice. And I really, really enjoyed this tour. Also, I had a tour to Berlin, and this one was really focused on history and on culture, because it was very important for them that all the exchange students coming in really understood Germany fully, so that if we were asked questions about different things that had happened in the past and were still happening, or different things, that we could answer properly and in the respectable way. So in Berlin, I visited a lot of different memorials and such. So here's a photo at the Jewish Memorial commemorating World War II. This is a really, really sad place. They had a museum actually underground. And yeah, it was not the happiest place. Also in Berlin, I got to see touristic attractions such as the Brandenburg, what's it in English? Gate, Brandenburg Gate. And also go to the Berlin Wall. So we learned a lot of things like this and got to go to many museums where we were taught what really happened in this time. Oh, I have a piece of the Berlin Wall. I was given as a gift.
Wow.
If anyone wants to pass around, pass them. Yeah, that was actually a gift from my host mother because it was very expensive, but it's kind of nice to have. And then actually a week later, this was in May, I went to Eastern Germany, and similarly to the Berlin tour, this had, I would even say, more historical context, and we had to learn a lot more here. It was very important. So first we visited a castle where Martin Luther was in refuge during the Bible scriptures and such. So this was very interesting. I hadn't learned this stuff in school before, so it was kind of nice to learn this. Also, because I'm a music fan, I got to visit Bach's house and see the pianos that he played on, and that was really interesting. And I was also in his hometown and by this statue, so that was a really cool moment for me. But also, I'd like to talk about something else I saw in Eastern Germany. So, to fully understand German history, you have to visit certain places. So we actually visited Buchenwald, which is the biggest concentration camp in Germany. So over the course of multiple years, they had 240,000 prisoners and 43,000 people died there. So Buchenwald wasn't even a death camp, and this is what had happened there. So for the Germans, it was really important that we understood everything. We watched videos, we had long conversations about these subjects and about how it was taught in all our school systems in our countries back home. So we could bring this knowledge back home, share it with people, so we're all on the same page. So that's the point of Rotary Youth Exchange, is to learn from each other and the different cultures. So I thought this was very informative, and I really appreciated this tour. I also have a little book I got from the camp, and it's all in German, but it explains all the human rights. So actually Rotary purchased one of these for all the exchange students so that we could read through them and kind of understand all of this better. So I don't know if you want to look through. So that was also something that was quite nice to have. Okay, so after my exchange sadly had to come to an end in July, I came back home. And what I discovered, and what I discovered throughout the year, is how much I had changed as a person. So going on an exchange like this, it has a very big impact on who you are, your capabilities, your thoughts, everything changes. So the first thing I noticed was my independence. So before, living in Dunrobin, if I wanted to do anything, go anywhere, Mom, can you drive me? Okay, thanks. I had no independence. I couldn't just go and do things on my own. I wasn't an adult, I was still a child. And I feel through this experience, I really did grow up to someone I quite like now. So I had to be independent for that. I had to be independent to do my reports for Rotary, to organize my own trips, organize my spending money. It was all so new to me. And so I feel through this process, I really grew up and learned a lot about myself. Also with this, I had to have responsibility. I had a responsibility to be a good exchange student. I had a responsibility to learn German and make connections with my host parents and with other students. That was all my responsibility. And I really learned how to handle these and how to sort things through and organize and plan my time. So this was something else. I also became more cultured, and now I see things through different perspectives. I don't just see it through the little girl who lives in West Carleton, Dunrobin, who hasn't really experienced much. I see it through, okay, this is what an adult Canadian would think, this is what a German would think, but more importantly, what an individual, who I am as an individual, what do I think? So I got to see things through these perspectives, as well as perspectives from students like myself from all over the world, America, China, Brazil, to name a few. So this is something I also learned. And finally, I learned how to appreciate what I have back here, back home, with my own family, with my families in Germany, with the people I knew, the experiences I had. I had to appreciate this gift that I was given. So I found that to be something I really did learn. Moving forward. So currently I'm in my last year of high school, grade 12. And I'm finishing things up, but it's been kind of a challenge again for me because in Germany, none of my school credits counted. So I've been putting in extra work doing online courses. I did summer school for many years, and my piano actually counted as a credit. And with all of this, I am basically doing 4 years of high school in 3. So it's been really hard to compress everything, but it's definitely been worth it. So I'm just finishing up grade 12. I'm also working towards becoming a lifeguard with the City of Ottawa. So I've been doing a lot of courses for that, and I'd like to extend my leadership into those roles as well. And finally, I am going to be applying to university. I am hopefully going to get into Carleton. And I'd like to study psychology because I feel like that's a good way to understand and communicate better with people. And I'd also like to say thank you very much to this club for even selecting me for this exchange. It has really changed me, and it was such a wonderful gift that I'll never be able to give back enough for how much it has helped me and changed me and made me see things differently, all the stuff I said before too. It's really been the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I remember before in my first interview with Sue, she actually mentioned, what was the question? What has been your biggest accomplishment to date? And I think I responded, oh, for sure my musical theory I've done for 3 years and my piano exams. But looking back, like this is the biggest thing I've for sure done to date, and probably for the next few years until university. So this means everything to me. So thank you very much for all of this and the support. It's been really nice. And also, thank you for listening. And if you want a business card, I'll just pass them out to you.
Isabella, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, for sure, if anyone has questions.
In your presentation, you went to several different locations. You went to this Jewish memorial in Germany.
Yes.
And you had some feeling about it being very negative. Could you expand on that just a little, because it's a significant point.
Yeah, it was actually a very strange phenomenon when all of us would go to these different places, especially because we were from different cultural backgrounds. It didn't matter where we were from. We just all felt the same, like, sadness and melancholy almost. It was the strangest phenomenon I've ever felt.
They're very solemn places.
It was solemn. It was
I
sad.
Concentration camp. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, there was no laughter, no happiness. It was very serious, very solemn, and you could really feel that in your core almost, in your being. So that's what I would elaborate on. Does that answer your question?
Well, more or less, but I guess I have the impression that it's been a struggle for the German people, at least some of them, to face that bit of history.
Actually, it's still a very large part of their culture. You don't see a lot of, like, patriotism for their country. You don't see German flags up in the city ever. You see Canadian flags pretty much everywhere here, and in the United States, American flags everywhere. But in Germany, it's still something of shame and remorse. And so especially for the district organizers, whenever they would bring it up, it would be with this deep sadness and not regret, but remorse and shame. They still really feel it today, even though it's been 70 years since it all occurred. So that's what I would say about that. Anyone else? Yeah, Miriam?
Do you think that this group you were with is different from the group that you had the orientation sessions with? Because when you're talking about this